Well, it looks like we have a growing threat in the Caribbean because right now the United States and Venezuela are very close to going to war. According to many experts, they say this is actually good news for companies here in the United States. It's good news for our economy, but it's going to be difficult in the short term. And I'll explain why in a moment. But look at this. This is what just happened. It says Russian oil tanker evades U.S. Navy to reach Venezuela. Just the other day, I talked about how a oil tanker from Russia tried to make its way into Venezuela. It was blocked by the U.S. Navy. It went back, sat in the Caribbean, came back 2 other times, and all 3 times it was blocked. It could not get through. Well, it looks like it ultimately did. And now, here's the problem. We don't know if there was actually oil on that ship or if it was weapons. According to many reports, they are speculating that there is a higher likelihood it was weapons and not oil. And that right there puts more pressure on the Trump administration. This is also why some say President Trump called in the top U.S. military advisor. He visited the Caribbean as President Trump started to ramp up pressure on Venezuela. But what exactly does this mean? Are we going to see Nicolas Maduro? Is he going to step down? Are we going to see a regime change? Or what is this going to look like? And when does it actually happen? Well, let's listen to this.
It looks like we're seeing some encouraging signs, but are we seeing encouraging signs that Maduro will actually step away, that he'll take a deal, maybe take some money and head off to, I don't know, Russia? What would that look like? What are you seeing? Does it look like it might happen soon?
Well, I think this is the president's peace through strength approach playing out in real time, and we're watching these daily fluctuations. But what Maduro is looking at is the might of the United States Navy right off his coast. And when he's making decisions about the future of himself, his family, and his regime, he's not taking his eye off of that carrier strike group and amphibious ready group that's right off the coast.
And I just want to point something out that President Trump, it does not look likely that he moves that any of the military action that we're seeing that's forming in the Caribbean, it does not look like he's going to move it because all the threats are coming from Venezuela, from that area. And so President Trump wants to stop it. Let's keep listening.
And so as he's thinking about what's President Trump going to do, the president's one of his brilliant strategies as commander-in-chief has always been that he doesn't want his opponents to know what he might do. And that wild card factor is keeping Maduro and it's keeping numerous other dictators all over the world up at night because they don't know what President Trump has up his sleeve. And so Maduro's thinking, should I negotiate? Should I take that phone call? Or should I hunker down? And I think right now the strategy's working and Maduro's thinking, I need to talk to President Trump and see if I can work out a deal.
Okay, but is President Trump ready to talk? Well, just the other day we learned he is. It says President Trump is ready to talk to Maduro over Venezuela drug strikes. Now keep in mind, President Trump is saying this is because the fentanyl is making its way into the United States. But many lawmakers are questioning, is that really the truth? Because we are not seeing a lot of fentanyl coming through the Caribbean. So why is there such a massive military buildup in the region? And some are saying that what you're telling us and what you're doing, they don't align. And that's a problem, which, according to Senator Rand Paul, he predicts the GOP will fracture over Venezuelan strikes. It says Senator Rand Paul warned that the White House's continued strikes on Venezuela may lead to a drop in support for President Donald Trump. And that is the concern. And this is why I'm telling you, this is a big deal. This is a massive deal, even bigger than what we've seen with other tensions and wars, even with Russia and Ukraine. And again, that's massive. But with Venezuela, there's a few things that we need to be very concerned with. I want to play this clip for you. Listen to this right here, and this is going to explain exactly why this is such a big deal.
Venezuela for the American oil companies will be a field day because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity. American companies can go in and fix all the oil pipe, the whole oil rigs, and everything that has to do with the Venezuelan petroleum companies, or everything that has to do with oil and the derivatives. Number two, Venezuela has been the launching pad, the hub for our enemies. The Iranian, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Cubans, the Nicaraguans, people that hate the United States, and the only thing they want to do is do harm to us and to our young Americans.
Just want to step in really quick before she finishes this, but that is a huge concern. So not only does it give us access to, but we can actually go and help Venezuela so that they can pull the 300 billion or million barrels, whatever it is, out of the ground. I think 300 billion barrels of oil out of the ground. That's the largest oil reserve in the entire world. We can help them get it out. Okay, they don't need to worry about and wait for help from Russia and China and Iran and all the other countries. The United States can help. That would be a huge, huge boost, not only to the country, but to the entire region. And some say that we need to move away from some of these dictators so that these countries can work well with other countries. Let's keep listening, though.
And number three, he is the head of the Sons Cartel, which is one of the transnational criminal organizations. In 2020, Nicolas Maduro was indicted by a federal grand jury for drug trafficking, and he is the head of the Sons Cartel.
There you go. So you can't have these ongoing negotiations with somebody that is deemed a terrorist, that is part of a cartel, right? That is the leader of it. Can't have that. But here's the next thing. Again, I'm telling you, okay? There's a growing threat in the Caribbean. Look at this right here. It says the U.S. B-52H bomber and the F-A-18 fighter jets make powerful air appearance near Venezuelan skies. It says on the 24th of November, a U.S. B-52 from Minot Air Force Base, call sign Pappy 11, escorted by U.S. Navy F-A-18s, flew an unusually close track along Venezuela's northern coast near Caracas, just hours after Washington designated the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. The United States is ramping up pressure because, according to reports, Nicolas Maduro does realize that the time is limited. Okay, maybe that time has come where he has to step back, okay, focus on himself, his family, right, and that part, and just let the country go and do what they're going to do. Because as of right now, it's not working. So, what does this mean for us here in the United States? Well, here's the thing. These talks could happen over the next couple of weeks, could happen over the next several days. It's likely going to be a phone conversation, not an in-person conversation, just so you know. With that said, this phone conversation doesn't lead to something. I don't know. But the biggest thing that you need to understand is that President Trump, he is the wild card. And I say this because what President Trump does is nobody knows exactly what he's going to do next. As a result, it makes it very difficult for somebody to plan. So for Nicolas Maduro to try to plan for what the United States is going to do, it's almost impossible because President Trump can come out in the next hour and say something and will completely change what Nicolas Maduro had planned originally, which also makes it a little bit more difficult for the U.S. Military, for the Navy. Also makes it more difficult for CIA operatives that are currently in Venezuela. But at the same time, according to reports, this is exactly what the United States needs. Is this kind of odd approach that nobody's seen before, because this right here could be the one thing that's holding or stopping us from reaching our actual destination and reaching our final goal, which would be to oust Nicolas Maduro and to start trading and having some type of working relationship with Venezuela. Again, like the reporter said, this could be really good for U.S. companies. This would be over $1 trillion in trade, so that would be massive. it would be really good for tensions in the region. But at the same time, this is something that has to happen. It's just a matter of time. So, as we get more updates on this, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get it. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.